Hello, all. We are back, and we are talking about the RLCS and the downsizing that is happening, or the budget cuts, whatever you want to call it. It has affected, obviously, the caster crew. It has affected the prize pool, so we'll break it all down here today. So let's start, and I'm going to just start with this glorious picture of what we've lost, or what I've lost, I guess, in terms of the caster family and all that. So far, what we have heard is the only confirmations that are public, I guess, as of now, is myself. I will be returning, and James Bot. There's going to be more, obviously, but there's no confirmation there. But more importantly, the people that are let go. Achieves, Corelli, Jorby, Spaceman, Subi, and Turtle so far have announced publicly that they will not be returning to the RLCS. This also includes, prior to this, the esports team layoffs as well, which includes Chloe, who is pictured here in the front. She was our talent manager, talent go-to. She also was let go even earlier, back in, I guess, October, I think it was, maybe September, somewhere around there. So we've lost a lot, and I just wanted to point these people out. But go on Reddit. There is a link to support all the casters that have been let go. On top of that, we also have lost a bunch of admins and a bunch of other people that make this esport tick. Basically, it's a transitional period, right? We're going from the EFG or ESL side of things, whatever you want to call them, to now moving over to Blast. And on top of that is obviously a lot of budget cuts and all that to try and make this a product that can continue for years to come. So the RLCS is now contracted, I believe, for 4 years with Blast. So a lot of long-term support there. But with that came some budget cuts to allow this to continue. And hopefully we can regrow and re-pick up some of these people and get them back in the cast and booth. But it's been a very depressing time. These guys are my family. I love them. And I am very, very sad that they will not be returning. It was kind of a thing that was probably going to happen at some point, right? We did have a very large caster pool, and I would know that firsthand because I had to schedule and rotate these guys into cast, and it was very, very difficult at times. But still, it still hurts, and these guys losing their jobs is not great. So support them in any way you can, and that just means eyeballs on their channels. It doesn't have to be monetarily. Just get eyeballs on their stuff. Again, I will post that Reddit link in the description below. On top of that, let's get into the RLCS prize money comparison. I'm going to make plenty of videos throughout this week about different rules and different things that are changing in the RLCS. But today, I want to focus on the prize money comparison. Is it good? Is it bad? Yada, yada, yada. So let's get into that. Hopefully I picked the right one. Oh boy. I forgot which one it was. Sorry, here we go. There it is. We found it. All right, let's get back more into, maybe not lightheartedness, but I can't, it's just depressing. It's just depressing right now. So we're gonna sit here, we're gonna talk about some prize money comparisons about what is changing across the regions. Obviously, we're down to 2 splits. That is one of the key things here. 2 splits. We still got 3 regionals that they call them qualifiers. I really hope they change that back to regionals. I think qualifiers just doesn't sound as exciting, right? But anyway, 3 regionals per split, 3 qualifiers. And then you go to a major. Then we do it again for 1 more split. You go to a major, and then there's a world championship. I'm not really going to focus on the dates or any of that here. We're just talking about the prize money comparison compared to last year and what is happening. We'll talk about major spots and all that stuff in other videos. So let's start with APAC and SSA, and we'll just scroll down here so you'll be able to see them. So basically, they lost, or they gained about 20% prize money for them per regional. But again, they're losing 3 regionals, so that's only like 1.2 regionals gained. They lost 1.8, if that makes sense. So they lose about $35,000 across the entire season regionally. First place, they stay the same. Then we get a 40% decrease for number 2. 3 and 4, they lose over half of their prize money. Then 5th through 8th loses 25%. Then after that, they are increasing pricing all the way up to 32 teams. So 9th through 11th get a little bit, 12th through 14th. It goes down 15th through 16th. Then it goes just a flat 300 for anyone below that until you get to 32. A couple things here that I want to note is obviously it's budget cuts, right? So it's like everything is downsizing. That's obviously a negative, right? I do like the idea of increasing the prize money out to certain teams. I think I would have cut it in half, though. I would have doubled it for each region. So with APAC and SSA, they used to only have top 8 paid out. I would have gave it to 8 more teams there. Instead, they went all the way down to 32. And we have seen a lot of people say that that there are times when there wasn't even that many teams that would sign up for these type of events. And that's more maybe in the SAM and OCE range. As we talk about them. But for APAC and SSA, I think it is still good. It's still a way to grow it. There is a new rule that you just have to play on the server and you don't have to be located there. We'll talk about more of that in a future video, but I just want to put that as a caveat. There's obviously some Americans playing in the APAC region, some even playing in SSA, which I don't understand. But yeah, so keep that in mind as well as we talk about this. Again, we'll break all this stuff down video by video, just so it's not like a 5-hour-long video here, right? So, APAC and SSA, overall, it's not terrible. Obviously, first place, if you're the best APAC team, you haven't really lost much. You lose, obviously, 1 split's worth of money, but per qualifier, per regional, you will gain the same amount. They also now have a major spot, so that is huge for the APAC region. I'm sorry, not APAC, SSA. So keep that in mind. SSA, they gain a little bit more benefits out of this than maybe an APAC, because APAC already had a major spot. World Championship APAC, technically, it's weird. They technically have gained a top 16 spot, but they lose a spot because there's no wild card. But a bunch of regions are losing spots, so it's what can you do, right? So overall, they're 20% increase across their regionals, but they will lose a total worth of about $35,000. I will link this spreadsheet as well if you guys want to look at it as a view only. I just made this up real quick if anyone wants to do comparisons for themselves or just have it so they know. Yeah, so let's move on. Going over to MENA and SAM and OCE. So basically, the pricing works out regionally. It's a tier 3 regions, basically APAC and SSA. Tier 2 regions are MENA, SAM, and OCE. And then tier 1 regions are EU and NA in terms of pricing. So we'll move over to MENA and SAM. Here we got, and sorry, I'm looking this way. Is that the right way? Whatever. My camera might be looking the wrong way, but what can you do? MENA, SAM, and OC actually gain money through this new pricing. And that even includes 3 less regionals. So MENA, SAM, and OCE players that are playing regionally should be pretty excited about this. They didn't really lose much here. So if you come in first, you actually gain 10% compared to RLCS 23 money. Then number 2, you don't gain anything. 3rd and 4th actually loses 23%, so that's the one spot where they lose a little bit of money, but then it's made up for in the back end with more teams. 64 teams get paid out in MENA, SAM, and OCE. Personally, I probably would have went with a 32, but I still actually love this. I think it's a much better way to split up prize. And one thing that I'll note for NA and EU later is it was way too top heavy. If you're a team that's going to win or make a grand finals in a regional, you already have tons of support through orgs, through salaries, and all of that. That I thought the prize split was a little bit too lopsided towards the top and didn't support enough of the teams below them. So I am happy about that. I think maybe they reached a little bit too far, but I still overall love this new pricing structure. Obviously, there's budget cuts and all of that, and that's a little bit of a different story. No one likes that, right? Obviously. But overall, I actually really like this new idea because it's going to mean a lot more teams sign up. I've seen so many content creators or so many people hey, I'm going to sign up and try and win my bag, win $100 or whatever. It's just going to mean so many more teams will sign up and try and participate, which is always a great thing. And it's really cool if you're like, I never have a chance at pro, but I might have a chance at like top 128 in NA in Europe. Maybe an outside shot, but I have a shot and I can try and win some money. Like if I was a team that was like, I know I could probably make top 128, but I'm not going much further. Why even bother signing up for this? Like, unless you want to play pros or whatever, or like players that are good and try and improve. But there's probably a ton of people out there like, I'm never going to be a pro. And I know that. And I'm okay with that. But now they actually have a chance to win a little bit of money. I think that's really, really cool. So, MENA, Sam, and OC, they gained $36,000 across the year. And that's even with 3 less regionals. So, MENA, Sam, and OC players should be very, very happy. Moving on. Talk about EU and NA. So the one thing that I want to point out is that I did not like is we talked about it being very top heavy. And here's what I mean. Half of the prize pool was $100,000 in RLCS 23. The 2 grand finalists took away half of that money. And I just thought, like, that's not really necessary. Again, these teams have yearly salaries that they get paid pretty well. It was kind of too much of a gap, even from making top 2 to 3rd, 4th. Was over double of what 3rd and 4th gets, which I thought was insane. So even if they didn't change anything in terms of who gets paid, just top 16, I probably would have been like, take away at least $5K from both 1st and 2nd and split up that $10K amongst the rest of these teams and get them up a little bit of money, right? That did not happen. Obviously, we have like different things, but I am happy that there is changes. Now, again, budget cuts. Here's where NA in Europe and a lot of the heavier regions in terms of prizing or heavier, it's like events like majors and worlds really get cut down a lot. Because we've seen it with APAC and SSA. They only lose a 35K. It's not the worst thing in the world there. Then MENA, Sam, and OC, they actually gained some money, but now we're going to see a lot of cuts. So EU and NA, we get a 30% loss for first place, which again, that on itself isn't terrible, I would say. Then a 40% loss on number 2, and I think this really has to come down to like how the pricing was before. Again, I thought it was a little too top heavy. I assume that Blast agrees there, and they thought that number 2 should get paid a little bit less. So that's why they're the lowest amount here. So minus 40%. 3rd and 4th, 25%. 5th through 8th, about 25% as well. 9th, 11th, 30%, minus 10%. 15 and 16 actually gains a 20% bump. And then obviously there's payments coming out now. 17 through 32, 900. 33 through 64, 450. And 65 through 128, which is a lot of teams, $300 each. So again, here probably would have went like, I would have cut out probably through the top 128. But the more I think about it, the more I like it, because there's so many teams out there now. There's going to be so many more players competing just because they think they can squeak in probably to a top 128, which I think is pretty fun. Now, the qualifier format and all that stuff, that'll be a whole different video. I'm not a fan of it either, but we'll talk about that in a future video. But overall, 19% gained through pricing, but most of that is through this back end here, through these 4. So that's where all that prize gain is. The top 14 teams all lose money per regional, per qualifier. So they gain money, but it's mostly just like the rich giving it to the poor, right? Because the rich are losing money here in NA and Europe. And then overall, the entire region loses $181,000 or $182,000 if we're going to round across the year. Next up, we have majors. It's going from 310 to 255. Major prize in 25% down for 1st, 25% down for 2nd. 3rd and 4th, again, increase a bit. And here again is something that I agree with Blast is I thought, again, it was a little bit too top heavy, where 3rd and 4th should never be like less than half of what a grand finals gets. Like, I thought that was a little bit too extreme in the past. So I do agree with that bump, and that's why they actually get bumped up money. 5.88% for 3rd and 4th place. Then 5th through 8th, it's 0%. So really, it's mostly like 1st and 2nd are losing a bunch. The rest of the top 8, not really losing a lot, but after 8th, you're losing a lot of money. So 9th through 11th, 33% cut, 40% cut, 12th through 14th, 15, 16, 30% cut there. Now, again, keep this in mind for like an APAC region, they actually gain a spot here. So sure, it's a 30% cut, but now they're in the tournament. So they're pretty happy about where they are at, I would say. Overall, the major event minus 17.74% compared to an old major event. And again, there's only 2 majors instead of 3. So we're losing $420,000 in majors. Here's where, again, a bunch of the cuts are coming from the bigger events. Like NA in Europe, majors, and then, of course, Worlds. So let's go down to Worlds here. Last one. We got first place, $600,000 gets cut in half to $300,000. That is a huge, huge cut. Again, it was top heavy. It's coming down a little bit more. Number 2, which is losing across the board the most. So if you make grand finals, minus 62.5%. 3rd and 4th loses 50%. 5th through 8th loses 25%. So not as big of a gap as it used to be. And then 9th through 24th is how I wrote this because the formats are not exactly the same. But basically, 9th through 24th got $300K before. But that was also because there was 8 more teams getting paid. 8 teams are getting paid less here because there's not 24 teams anymore at the World Championship. So 217.5 minus 27%. But again, because there's less teams, it's actually probably not a decrease for those teams that finished 9 through 16. I just didn't want to write it all out because it'd be weird formatting because there's different places and all of that. So World Championship overall losing 44.5%. They lose nearly $1 million out of that prize pool. Again, 2.1 to 1.1655. So the total year loss, like if my calculations are right, I saw on a website it was like I was off by like 500 on one of the regionals, but I think I'm correct. But whatever. 1.535 and $400. 1.5 million basically is our total year loss, roughly about 30% cut across the board, which we've seen that 30% number be thrown around a lot. So this has already been a long video, 17 minutes. I didn't want to go too long. I was hoping to get it down to under 15, but there you go. Prize money is a little bit different. I actually don't mind the blast way of doing like first and second don't need necessarily the biggest bump compared to 3rd and 4th, and across the board it seems like they tried to mitigate that gap a little bit. Obviously no one likes budget cuts, no one likes that there's less prize money, but the way they changed the percentage of who gets what money, I think overall is pretty solid. Again, I think the teams, you probably could have cut it in half. Like APAC and SSA probably could have went to maybe top 16 only, top 32, MENA, Sam, and OC, top 64 for EU and NA. But again, there are positives to getting paid out that far to 128 because a lot more people are going to sign up. A lot more people are going to make content around that, I assume. So we'll see how it all pans out. But that's it for this video. Just want to give another huge shout out to my family of casters. They are hurting. Go to Reddit and go support them. I will put the link in the description below. And if more confirmations come out, they'll be added to that list. Or if more confirmations the other way, whatever. But I'm not going to talk about those here. So that's going to do it for me on this video. Thank you guys always for the support. I will be back on the RLCS broadcast. I will be on the NA shows. I have signed a contract. It is all done. We are good to go. The stress of that, at least the anxiety of that, is gone. Thank God. But yeah, we'll see you there. The show's going to be a little bit different, but we're going to do our best to entertain. I hope you come watch. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of great teams coming out in North America. And I would say it's pretty diversified too, of like who could actually make a top 4 spot. So that'll do it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you again. All the support. Love you. Support the other casters. Again, link down below. We'll see you tomorrow probably for another video. Bye-bye.